And yeah, it is a very special stretch of road, and one that all the drivers certainly were enjoying earlier. And the sunshine has made a welcome reappearance today. Temperatures still hovering below zero. Big question mark how much this road's held up, though. Those studded tyres can do some damage. But we spoke to some of the crews earlier this week to give us a few more details on this one.
One of the wider stages of the weekend, very fast, beautiful landscape as well. And if the sun is shining, it's really a nice stage. You can enjoy the landscape because there are a lot of long straight lines, wide road, but it's one I always enjoy.
Most likely one of the fastest stages of the rally, I would say. Some areas which are really wide and really flat out, especially at the start of the stage. A little bit more of a technical bit in the middle, but mostly I would say one of the fastest of the rally.
This one is one I will struggle with the most, I think, because you ricky at 70 miles an hour, then you come to these corners with so much speed. It's difficult to know how much of that speed you can carry through the corners. But yeah, a very nice one where you can really feel that speed and that grip into the tires. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it was Gregoire himself. I think he declared it as his favourite stage, or one of his favourite stages of the whole season earlier on. The Luxembourger liked it that much. The fans out in force and well wrapped up, as you'd expect when it's -4 degrees. But loving the show. Let's just remind you of our start order then for this second day. We've got the restarting Tanak and Rovanperä, who've been, as you'd expect, setting some good pace out there this morning. Then there is Gregoire Munster, followed by Lorenzo Bertelli. Thierry Neuville now up to 4th place after getting past Solberg, as we just saw. Elfyn Evans still hunting down Formeau. Let's see what he can do in this one with the leader, Esa-Pekka Lappi, biding his time. Oliver Solberg slipping down the order in the overall standings, but he does have a massive lead in the WRC2 standings. Mike Cheney alongside me again. The sunshine return, beautiful scenery, and we did enjoy this stage earlier on today. Very different layout to that slightly rougher one we just saw moments ago.
Yeah, the previous stage in this afternoon loop, PK has cut up an awful lot, hasn't it? And, you know, as we said, we've seen lots of different cars come through here since the Rally 1 cars were here earlier on this morning. So many different cars, which has created many different lines. It was what we could clearly see was that the road was starting to churn up. It was messy, wasn't it? You didn't have that nice, clean ice bed that we had this morning. Hoping that this stage won't be quite as bad, because it's, as you said when you were giving your stage description, it's quite fast, isn't it? It's quite flowing, and it's actually on those high braking areas and hard acceleration areas where the stage surface really suffers. There's not quite so much of that in this stage. Nonetheless, the start of the stage already looks quite dirty, and as we saw in the previous one, there will be a sweet spot. I think Ott Tanak will be cleaning. The first couple of cars will clean. Then there'll be a sweet spot in the stage, and then after that you get down to that gravel and the conditions will deteriorate.
Yeah, and this is where we do start to talk about tyre preservation, and it's different but similar in a funny way, isn't it, to a gravel event. And a gravel event, it's about, and even a tarmac event, it's about looking after that rubber. Here it's about looking after those studs for different reasons. It's still tyre preservation, and again, it's those drivers that are smoother styles that are probably going to be able to retain those studs better than others. And it's a similar sort of the guys that like your Sebastian Ogiers that are so good at preserving those tyres, but here it's about preserving the studs in those tyres to get that grip.
Yeah, don't wrestle the car. When you don't need to spin the wheels up on gravel, when you get down to a gravel section, you don't do it. You've got to protect that stud, and ultimately the tip of the stud, if you're on gravel, is what takes the load. That doesn't bite down through the gravel surface, but on ice it does do, and therefore the load is spread. When it's just the tip of the stud, what happens is it starts to blunt the stud for a start, so it won't bite down into the ice when you get on ice as well, but also it creates a bending moment when you know, it's quite a long stud, but it creates that bending moment, and it moves in the tyre, and eventually the stud will work itself loose. So as you say, it's about tyre preservation, particularly, we'll talk about it a little bit later, for Adrien Formeau and Elfyn Evans, because remember, we've still got a nigh on 30-kilometre stage coming after this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long old loop today. 26 kilometres almost in total. We do then still come back to the Umeå stage, the longer version of the Umeå stage, though, to finish today. That's about 10 kilometres, and that will run as the Wolf Power stage tomorrow. But we're back with Tanak for the moment. Let's just enjoy this ride on this wonderful Sarsjoliden stage for a moment.
üles, 150. Seo vasak kuulpildus kiire nukiga lahti. 70, stopp. Vasak traffic sisse ja parem pool miinus. Maha. 120.
It's crazy to think of it's only, what are we, 10 past 3. But the sun's already getting quite low in the sky, isn't it? We are so far north, not quite in the Arctic Circle, but it's a strange one at just gone 3 o'clock. But the low sun may even start to become a bit of an issue in terms of the visibility, but we are nicely nestled amongst the trees here. As you can see, we've got a few split times we'll update you on.
Yeah, this stage is going to clean, and probably not as much as the first stage we saw in the afternoon loop, but it will clean a little bit, and as I said, there will be that sweet spot. But again, there is a clear line there of where to put the car. I think for Kalerov and Pera, the next few cars coming through, that will only become more defined. Oyt Tanak safely through with a 6:49.4. This morning it was a 6:38.9, so no question the stage conditions have deteriorated just that little bit.
Yeah, that's to be expected. But
yep.
Yeah, Tanak and Robin Pera both showing good pace. They'll be focusing on tomorrow because good all the points now available with this new point system on the final day, as well as the Wolf Power stage. We've got the first points available this afternoon now, this evening, haven't we, for the top finishers? 18 points for the man who's in the top spot. Let's hear from Oyt.
Oyt, second pass, what were conditions like and how did you manage?
We managed, we are here, but yeah. I guess wind is strong, so many places no road, but yeah, with the speed you get through.
Is this the most enjoyable one of the loop?
Sorry?
Is this the most enjoyable stage of the loop?
There is nothing enjoyable today.
Oyt Tanak just venting his frustration there about running first on the road. That's a hell of a shot, isn't it? And that helicopter will be running full bore to try and keep up with that rally car. 190 kilometres an hour. These
just
things are doing,
it, didn't it?
Yeah, they're doing over 50 metres a second.
On ice.
On sheet ice, and then they've got to get the car slowed down for the left-hander and then this tight right-hander as well.
And you can see in some of those shorter corners, can't you, where they have got a bit dug in, and you can really see that gravel swept out behind them. And that's an example of what we're seeing on some of those slower corners in the previous stage. But thankfully, most of this one is foot to the floor and hold on tight.
Yeah, as soon as you're on the brakes and the studs are biting down into the ice, you know, it's breaking the surface up. And again, when you're on the way out of the corner, you bury the throttle and it spins up the wheels. It literally churns up the surface of the stage, and that's where you do end up with gravel. It becomes abrasive and it can damage the tyres. But this is actually quite clean through here. This isn't what we saw in the previous stage. This is actually quite a nice tram line. At least you can see where to put the car.
Yeah, I mean, Tanak a bit down on himself there and a bit frustrated because he's ended up first on the road after that retirement yesterday. But you might find in some of these stages, this one perhaps because it's got a good base just about at the moment. But as you say, there's going to be that tipping point where even this stage may get a little bit churned up. So you never know. Maybe sometimes it's better to be at the front. Other times it's better to be at the back. It does change on these sort of winter rallies.
Yeah, probably 6th or 7th on the road for a few cars, and then it'll start to churn. It'll start to, like I said, there'll be a sweet spot in the stage.
Panic, he just disappears into a cloud of snow, but it's just flinging that snowbank into the sky. Good running here, 1.4 down, up, sorry, at 13 kilometres and 1.7 quicker overall is Calais. Great to see these. The two favourites, really, weren't they? Or two of the favourites in Tanak and Robin Pera. It was really frustrating to lose them both so early yesterday. But the man who is leading, Esa-Pekka Lappi, was also definitely in the mix.
Yeah, as we join Lorenzo Patelli down on the start line. But just coming back to Oyt Tanak and Kalle Robin Pera, their job starts tomorrow. Oyt Tanak will be going flat out to try and score as many points as he can under this new exciting point structure that we've got, where you can effectively start again on Sunday.
Kalle, quicker than Oyt by 1.7. What are conditions like, second pass?
Yeah, quite okay. Lot of cleaning for us in the first cars, let's say. the line is so narrow that the guys coming behind will have much wider lines for sure. But I was driving quite slowly here, just trying to take care of the tire, and I don't know, not to kill it, and then it's a bit more enjoyable for the rest of the stages.
Yeah, Kalerov and Pera and Tanak, they don't, you know, they're out of the running. Their job starts tomorrow morning. You know, they'll both have to go absolutely flat out to try and be the fastest. That's what they're fighting for, the fastest over the 3 stages. And whoever gets that gets those extra 7 championship points. And then, of course, you've got the power stage on top of that as well. Kalerov and Pera will be... Oh, Gregoire Munster just outbraked himself there. He's going to get away with that. He was very lucky. There was a big kind of a
just
bit of
managed to
space
scrub
there at the
enough speed
junction.
off.
Yeah, he was very lucky.
In the end, it was a slight little nudge. Took us through this one again.
But this is what we're talking about. You know, you're braking from 185 kilometres an hour, and he was offline, so you just can't get the car stopped. We saw that Gregoire was on the brakes, but he wasn't in those tram lines when he was braking. He just couldn't get the car stopped. There's no grip when you're out of those lines. That's not where the grip is. You've got to be in those lines. If you're cornering or if you're on the brakes, that's where the grip is.
Yeah, he was a passenger for a moment there, and just relieved that he'd scrubbed enough speed off, and it was thankfully just a hard enough snowbank there that he just sort of bounced off it and didn't get sucked into it, because if that was soft, he could have been done and dusted. But good to see him survive that. It is all about experience, as we mentioned, for the Luxembourger, and only his 2nd ever outing, remember, on the snow, and first time, of course, at the sports top level. And he's been setting pretty good pace there as well. That first split looked just 0.7 of a second off those 2 guys at the front. And just briefly going back to Tanak and Robert Pera, of course, yes, it's amazingly important for them to, you know, interesting as well to see what they can do, but they've got to do it again from first on the road tomorrow. So you'd have thought, in theory, especially the first run through that, the Vasterik stage, isn't it? 25 kilometres long, but that first run could be a bit tricky in terms of sweeping, but it's going to be interesting.
Today, this is testing for them. This is going to go having another little dig of the snowbank. This is testing for Tanak and Robin Pera for tomorrow. They'll get an idea of what they're in for, and as I said, Tanak will be going for those championship points. Kalerov and Pera will be out to stop him. So that's his job tomorrow, right? So yeah, it's going to be a real super sprint tomorrow.
Almost took out one of our arches there, but well, a little bit of a lively run there for the man from Luxembourg.
Gregoire was very lucky that he went into the bank sideways on and not face first, not nose on, because you can damage the cooling systems on these cars very easily. So he was lucky he was able to get the car at least rotated enough that it was the side of the car that took the brunt, not the front.
Thierry Neuville on his way. As we're back with Lorenzo Vitelli, and we'll see if Molly down there getting ready to speak to Gregoire on his lively run.
Gregoire, bit of a moment in there. Were you having a push on this one?
No, I just cannot keep the rear of the car into the line. It was already the problem before, so we need to do some adjustment, but I also need to change something from the power, because I went into a snowbank in the stage before.
So a few adjustments for Gregoire Munster. That's a great shot. That's like Mission Impossible stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch sometimes how low our eye in the sky can get as they try and make pace with these incredibly rapid rally cars. There's Munster's corner. Just sort of see the indentation of the Puma there on the left as Batelli slides past. First split for Neuville, looking pretty racy as well. 2.2 seconds up at just under 5 kilometres, the Belgian. He's already done the hard work of getting up to that 4th spot by getting past all those remaining Rally 2 runners. Oliver Stolberg was his last remaining charger. It's going to be tough for him to get any further up. Do you think that's even possible for Thierry? On pace alone, it looks unlikely.
Yeah, I think something's got to happen to Adrian or Elvin for him to bag another position, certainly today, but anything can happen. There's still a long way to go tomorrow as well. Another 60-odd kilometres to run, so look, this rally, that's certainly that fight for second, it's far from over, and Thierry Neuville, who knows, maybe he can drag himself into it. He wasn't comfortable in the car, was he? So he's got some work to do.
I was going to say, I think he's been tinkering with the setup after every single stage so far today. He's got himself into one of those no man's lands in terms of his sweet spot with the setup, because no matter what he tries, he just can't quite find it.
Yeah, it's very difficult for the engineers when the drivers come back at midday service and they said, we had understeer here, we had understeer there. The engineers have to try and dial that out, but they've also in the back of their mind, they're knowing that the stages this afternoon, that what they're going into are completely different as well. So they have to factor that into the setup of the car. We know that the teams have probably raised the ride height a little bit, but if we run a bit, do we run a bit softer to try and dial out the understeer? Do we stick a bit of rake in it to try and dial out the understeer? But then they don't know the conditions that the drivers are going to, so it's very, very difficult. And Thierry Neuville is in that. He's just chasing setup now.
Yeah, and I think he'd mentioned, hadn't he, in shakedown, because if you don't get that base setup sorted to start the whole weekend, then if you don't get your zero, let's call it, set up ready to go, then you're just chasing your tail the rest of the weekend, and it's pretty much what we've seen. And he basically a snowplow for much of yesterday, driving through that deep snows. We never really got to see exactly where he was at, I guess, until this morning, so it's been tricky for him. But Elfyn Evans having a really good run today, back in the podium places. Let's see it from Lorenzo.
Lorenzo, that's only 11.8 down on the fastest time. Was it an improvement in here?
I think I enjoyed it, all good. And the previous stage, I was pushing much less than Takam. I was close to go out where Taka went out, because it's a tricky corner, because everything seems absolutely normal, by Tyson slightly at the end. And but generally we're extra cautious in that corner, but they're saying that all good and I'm enjoying it. Thanks.
Just looking at the behaviour of that Hyundai, that looks fairly well hooked up, doesn't it? Thierry Neuville's, you could see that he was able to comfortably just tip the car in at high speed.
I think we had a moment here from Thierry, just see what went on here.
Yeah, just couldn't quite get the car turned in, could he? Just overcooked it a little bit on the brakes, couldn't get it turned in. Nonetheless, though, I do think that car's working well. He's nearly 6 seconds up at 10.53 kilometres. So that it's this is a good driver. But when you look at the way that the speed he was able to carry, and he just bang, turned the car in, it reacted, and it bit into the ice, and it worked for him. I think he's starting to at least get an idea of getting that car set up properly, and you can see he's braking on the line there. Can turn the car in, get on the throttle. That thing looks well set up.
Yeah, he might have finally got there. He said even after the last stage that they changed the setup again before that one. Of course, they had the midday service, and even then, with all the conversations you'd have with the engineers and everything, that they still weren't entirely happy. But let's see what he says at the end of this one. As I say, it certainly looks hooked up at the moment. Had a bit of a brush with the snowbank in the previous stage as well, didn't he, while he's going to get this thing dialed in.
He's well committed. He's well committed for here, PK.
Yeah.
Look how early he's got the car set up for the corner. He's back on the throttle and doesn't even think about getting off the power. That says to us that he's got confidence in what he's got underneath him. He can attack the stage.
Yeah, so 6:40.6 then for Thierry, 7.1 quicker than the early benchmark that was set by Calero and Pera. So let's see what the chasing pack can do. But as mentioned, he's got a heck of a long way to make up to the podium places. It's 1 minute and 12 seconds between Elfyn Evans and Thierry coming into this one. So, but he's doing what he can. And don't forget, this is on the back of a Monte Carlo win that meant he was running first on the road yesterday. So any good points haul you can get on this early stage of the season is not to be sniffed at. No alarm. So let's see if we can get a word with Thierry then.
Thierry, great drive in there, keeping the pressure on, quickest through by 7.1.
Yeah, but the road is getting faster and faster, so it's not a surprise because my stage was really bad.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. From the outside,
he's not.
What do we know?
He's not happy, is he? But
it's interesting. He's saying the road. You're right. It's still getting quicker. They still haven't got to that sweet spot in terms of that road deteriorating. Certainly, it's. Let's see if he's right though. There's still. There's only 3 more guys to come. We've got Evans, Formeau, and rally leading Lappy, of course, of the last about Rally 1 runners.
Yeah, I'm surprised because certainly it looked nice and clean and neat and tidy from Thierry Neuville. It looked like he was able to attack the stage, and I do think that the road is still cleaning. Once you get to that point, there will be a turning point when it will start to just churn up. Elvin Evans just 0.6 of a second clear of Thierry Neuville, and we know the road is cleaning. I think Thierry's being a little bit harsh on himself there, but we've heard it all weekend. The driver had got to the end of the stage and gone, I'm not happy, I'm not happy, I'm not happy. But
the times are great, yeah.
The time's been there.
And actually, the other thing about thinking about Thierry with his setup, because of course tomorrow, thinking about it as well, is he's another guy that's going to be going out there and trying to get, because it's another opportunity for him. He's, what is he, 4th at the moment? That's a good chunk of points already for the Saturday points. But again, you know, he could potentially get 12 maximum, and he's in theory going to have a better road position, of course, than the likes of Rovanperä and Tanak. So he's another driver that'll be looking to get a good haul of points to add to the 4th place he's got in the overall standings at the moment. Yeah, Evans, meanwhile, still chasing down that second place of Formo. The gap trimmed ever so slightly in the last one, but still 14.7 seconds, got to say. Formo, 4 attempts down on Thierry.
Yeah, Elvin just dropping a little bit of time, but remember, look, for Elvin now, he's in this fight with Adrian Formeau. He's got to try and reel in Adrian Formeau, and he's running out of time. But tyre management is a thing. As I said, we've still got another 30 kilometres to run. Did Elvin perhaps push a little bit too hard on those tyres in that first stage of the afternoon loop? Who knows? It's all about tyre management, certainly for that 30-kilometre stage. But Adrian Formeau driving really maturely for me at the moment. Elvin Evans completes 0.2 of a second slower than Thierry Neuville, who remains the fastest man in this stage. Here comes Esa-Pekka Lappi.
Yeah, it's our rally leader. Great low view of the cars. You get a sense of that, those studded tyres biting into the ice, and you quite often see these start line get pretty churned up by these studded tyres. Let's hear from Elvin.
Elvin, 0.2 off the fastest time. Adrian, a couple of tenths down. What sort of a drive did you have through here, second pass?
Not the best. It's quite difficult now with all this gravel coming through to feel good, obviously. Trying to find some sort of speed, but also managing, so not easy.
How much are you having to look after the tyres?
Quite a lot of things.
Who would you say of the guys who got here this weekend the best at tyre? I know a lot of these guys are very, very skilled at it, but who would you say are the best at tyre management of the guys who got here this weekend?
Yeah, it's just all about being very, very... I don't want to answer that question with a name.
You just say everybody.
Yeah,
but no, some people like to be a little bit more flamboyant and...
Yeah, it's those drivers that are driving smoothly, that are braking in a straight line, not with lock-on, that are braking in a straight line, that are aware of feathering the throttle and not working the car too hard on the way out of a corner, so not spinning those wheels up. You know... It's difficult. Traditionally, French drivers always drive
I was going to say, your Lopes and your Ogiers were the first guys to really nail that style of driving, weren't they, sort of 20, 15 years ago? It's
but then you have to look at the Scandinavians. You look at Oit Tanak and you look at Kalle Rovanperä. They're used to driving in these conditions. They're used to driving on snow, so they know how to look after studded tyres as well. So it's those drivers that minimise the input in the car and don't pressure the tyre too much. I think Thierry Neuville said that the road was still cleaning. Elvin Evans arrived at the end of the stage and said the road is now dirty and there's gravel coming through. So, yeah, I think Thierry was being a bit hard on himself there for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Every driver's got their own sort of theories and, of course, their own setup. And that's talking about driving style will affect those feelings that they have underneath the car as well. And for Mo, as we can see now, he's a second down on Thierry Neuville at the 10.5 kilometre splits compared to Elvin Evans. He's slower, but again, it's not by a huge amount. Let's just watch him through these last few corners now.
Yeah, we saw Adrian leave a little bit of time in that chicane section where Thierry Neuville outbraked himself. Adrian was good on the brakes, he got the car through, but it was on the way out of there where he just lost the back of the car and just left maybe a second or so there. It just breaks the flow, it breaks the rhythm of the car. And for Mo, slower than Elvin Evans and Thierry Neuville, 1.7 seconds to Neuville and 1.5 seconds slower than Elvin Evans.
Yeah, which I think is exactly the same time he dropped in the previous stage as well. But, you know, he's doing enough just to hold him off. And you've got to say, if he can manage, obviously we'd have the long 28-kilometre stage to come, but he can keep that gap into sort of double figures. I mean, everyone's assuming, rightly or wrongly, that Evans is the guy and with all these experience of fighting for championships, he's going to hunt down Formaux. But I tell you what, the French were doing a great job. Let's hear from him.
Adrian, just a second and a half drop to Evans in there. What are you driving with this afternoon now? Are you feeling the pressure or just pure enjoyment of driving?
Well, I'm enjoying the drive, but I just want to do my own rally and trying to manage the tires because it's quite hard for them. So we are doing a good job, so I'm quite happy with that, especially this afternoon. So we'll see. There are still 2 stages to do, so we continue.
It's great. It's great tactical chat, isn't it, from him? And you've got to say, it's actually a nice position to be in. He's already on for his first ever podium, whatever happens. It's almost like second place is a bonus that he doesn't even need to worry about, because if he doesn't get second, it's like, well, I've still got my first podium. Do you know what I mean? Psychologically, it's a weird one, if you can understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely, and if anyone had said to M Sport, listen, you can leave Sweden with a podium, they'd have bitten their arm off. And Adrian Formaux has driven with phenomenal maturity this weekend. The Puma's working for him. The M Sport guys clearly, he's working well with his engineers and been able to get that car set up to do what he needs to do. And he's speaking at the end of the stages so positively. He's got a smile on his face. He's enjoying his rallying. When your head's up, when your head's in the right place, when your chin's up, you're feeling positive. The times come as well. To go fast in rallying, you've got to enjoy it. And Adrian just doing what he needs to do out there and driving with maturity beyond his years.
Yeah, absolutely. Relaxed is the way forward, and long may that continue. We heard from Malcolm Wilson in the media zone earlier. Birthday boy Malcolm Wilson, of course, just how proud he was of that performance. Of course, a stage-winning run earlier today. Just the 4th stage win. A little bit of a nibble on the inside of the snowbank from Lappi. No harm done there. But yeah, hats off to Formaux and hats off to this man as well, Lappi. I mean, it must be so tense inside that car right now, and they've still got a long, long way to go. But what an opportunity.
Yeah, his job is just look after the tyres and get it through the stage. He's got such a buffer in hand now that Esa-Pekka Lappi doesn't need to take any risks. Don't throw it off, just be smart. Make sure you keep that car on the line of grip. Don't get off that line of grip, because when you do, you've got nothing underneath you, and the car bites you very, very quickly. So for Esa-Pekka Lappi, he's just got to just drive smart, look after the tyres, get through this day and get that car to the end of the rally. But as Bex was saying in the previous stage, psychologically it's a different mindset you've got to get into, and it's a real challenge.
Yeah, and he completes 4.6 seconds slower. Don't worry about that time. It's not a sign of anything alarming at all. He doesn't need to be going for fast times right now. Of course, he's on course for that 18 points, isn't he, if he can stay in this position at the end of Saturday. And I think that's one driver who I'd be very surprised if he has a Sunday attack, but I'm sure he'll prove me wrong now I've said that.
EP, that's another stage done, another smart and steady drive. Are you happy?
Yeah. All under control so far. For sure, it's quite tire management. It will be really bad with the tires, so we still need them on the last one, which will be full ice. So keeping that in mind.
Yeah, it's nice to try and get a close-up look at some of those tyres, isn't it, to see if some of the studs have started to go away as we rejoin our WRC2 leader, Oliver Solberg, Elliot Edmondson, of course, and yeah, just confirmation that despite his slightly dispirited comments at the end of the stage, it was indeed another fastest time for Thierry Neuville.
I thought the car looked good. I mean, he looked up and the pace was there. He's won the stage.
Yeah. So, Oliver, as we mentioned, he was in podium position, overall podium position at the start of the day, but he's not bothered about that by the end, because it's all about claiming that WRC2 victory to get his season off to a terrific start. He was in Monte Carlo, still drifted by there, but no, he's all good. Yeah, but he wasn't scoring points there, so this would be a wonderful start, and actually back-to-back wins in Sweden, of course, because he won here last year. He's got what is he now, 52-second lead over Sami Pairi. Now, he said earlier, Chenny, that he's going to start to back off a bit. We don't see that from Oliver very often. Are you seeing signs that he may be starting to drive at less than 100% finally?
Yeah, he said he was just going to stop, not take any risks. But I think he's just got to drive with how he's comfortable.
Yeah.
If you start to think about how you're driving, and you end up just kind of getting out of the zone of where you need to be. You just get in the car and drive it, and
whatever rhythm you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, exactly. You get that feeling within the first 300 or 400 meters of being in the stage, and lots of fans for Oliver Solberg, and he's doing a superb job here this weekend, no question. And it would be great to see him convert all his hard work into victory, and a nice birthday present for his mum as well.
Happy birthday, a lot of birthdays this week, haven't we? Georg Lindemann and James Morgan. Next interaction. Do have a rather tasty battle for the later podium places that we'll get you up to date with shortly, but let's see if Molly can get down there and have a word with Oliver.
Oliver, second pass, how much has it changed and did you improve?
Well, no, I didn't improve, but tried to take care of the tires. The first two here already are tough for the tires, so I'm just driving smart. Okay, I'm losing a bit of time, but who cares? I'm just trying to survive.
Yeah, just to reiterate that, we haven't really talked about the tyre allocation these days. Obviously, they generally sometimes carry 5, sometimes carry 6 in the car, but you basically assume, and I think pretty much everybody do have 2 spare tyres in the car, and that's not because they're worried about punctures, of course. It's for exactly the reason we're talking about. They've got some fresh tyres that they'll start to rotate, and they'll obviously have a look at them all and save the best tyres and rotate them round, because it makes a difference if they're front or... I think Lappy gave us an interesting chat, didn't they, about sometimes you need to sort of cross them over so you've got a bit of a balance in the car. That's the other tactical thing you can do, isn't it, with these tyres?
Yeah, the front tyres tend to take a bit of a battering, more so than the rears. The fronts are doing an awful lot of work, and there's a fair bit of weight coming through them. But basically, everyone, certainly in this afternoon loop, everyone will stick to 2 spare tyres in the back of the car, because you want the studs. And the reason they do it in the afternoon loop is because we start to see the stage deteriorating. That gravel does come through, and it doesn't take long once the gravel's through to damage the studs and eventually rip them out. And then, as Esa-Pekka was saying, it will be full ice later, so you need tyres that have got, decent studs on them.
Yeah, let's not forget that final stage of the loop coming up after this one is 28 kilometres long. You can see the shadows getting longer as well. Those lights will be needed sooner rather than later as well. There's certainly the final Umeå stage, the 10-kilometre version of it. And Sami Pyri makes his way in. So it's going to be another after dark spectacular this evening. And as you say, the temperatures will start to drop as well.
Yeah, 1.7 down on Oliver in there. How did you feel it went?
I don't know what's going on, but the car feels quite undrivable at the moment. We haven't changed anything, but I don't know. The surface must be very, very different. It doesn't do anything that I ask.
In what way? How is it driving?
It understeers, then it snaps, and the oversteers. It's very unpredictable, very, very difficult.
Yeah, and that's got to be unnerving when the car starts to behave completely differently underneath you. But, well, as he said, he's speculating it's the road surface changing, anything wrong with the car. And so we do have this battle then to keep an eye on. It's stretched out a tiny bit in that previous stage, but it's still pretty much a 4-way battle between the man you're watching now, Sami Pyri second. It's 8.6 seconds back to Rupert Korhonen. It's then 4 seconds between third and fourth to Lindemann, who we just heard from, and then Haikala still in the mix. The other Finn, he's 6.7 behind Lindemann, so it's still very interesting and a great battle once again in our leading support category.
He's just damaged the bottom of that front bumper. Sami Pyri looks like possibly maybe a landing coming over a bump or something like that. It's just ripped the bottom, but there's nothing too much to worry about there.
Well, let's see. I mean, compared to Lindemann, who was struggling, he was 3 seconds down at the last bit. He's now 3.6 seconds slower than Lindemann in there, was Pyri. So despite the Estonians' concern, I mean, Eddie's still smiling, but nothing stops Eddie smiling, let's be honest, at the end of these stages.
Yeah, absolutely. And the key thing for me here is Oliver Solberg said, look, I'm just backing off a little bit. I left time in there, but so far, he's going quicker than everybody else.
Yeah, not the first time that's happened. Here is Rupert Korhonen. Anssi Vinka alongside him.
Sammy down 5.3 on Oliver's time. A bit of plastic hanging off the front bumper. Was that in here?
I think not. I think this was quite okay. Like I cannot do more clean stage than this one. So let's see how we will manage the tires.
Well, there we go then. No major reason for that time loss compared to Linnemar, but Korhonen looking pretty tasty again.
Yeah, Rupert Korhonen is he's a real young Finnish talent, isn't he? Gets on very well with Kalirov and Pera. But just coming back to what Sami Päivärinta was saying, I couldn't have done any more in there. And for me, now we are at that tipping point of this stage where gravel is starting to come through and it's starting to get a little bit messier, a little bit choppier.
See, sometimes they're trying to drive off that line, aren't they, and sort of search for the ice. See, that's just outside of the slightly rutted, more gravel things. That's the other tactic you can use, isn't it, to search for that ice?
Yeah, it's kind of like when you... It's kind of like...
that corner always catches me out.
On a drying racetrack, when you've got a set of wets on, you don't want to drive on the dry line because you'll muller your wets. So you move on to the wet line and just try and cool the tyres down a little bit and just find a bit of water. It's a similar idea in a straight line. Obviously, but when you're braking and cornering, you want to make sure that car is absolutely in the tram lines where there's no fresh snow, like a bed of snow at all, because you won't have any grip there at all.
Yeah, so Korhonen completes today 7:10.1. They're 3.4 slower than Oliver, and he's slower than Päivärinta, and yeah, that's 1.7 slower than Päivärinta. Sorry, 1.7 slower than Linnemar, and he's actually 1.9 quicker than Päivärinta. So yeah, it was a costly stage in there for Sami.
Mikko Heikkilä was superb through here.
Almost 2 seconds quicker than Sami in there. Was that a bit of a push?
No, yeah, the previous was really hard for tires, so we have to manage and save tires. But yeah, really nice. That time is good.
I think that rough previous stage has really been quite costly for a lot of drivers, isn't it? It's sort of caught them out a bit earlier in the loop than they'd intended, but he does just quickly bring that gap down to 6.7 seconds now between Päivärinta and Korhonen.
Yeah, the battle raging on. I do think this stage is starting to turn, and these guys as well, they're thinking smart because they know that they've got, as we say, another 28-kilometre stage to run after this one, and it'll be a similar story. PK, it will start to churn up in places. It will start you won't have that grip, that solid bed of ice. So, but I do think we are starting to get to the point in this stage where conditions are not quite so good. Mikko Heikkilä again dropping a bit of time. I was just saying he was brilliant through here this morning.
But that's to Oliver though. I tell you what, this bunching this group up right up there. It's actually Linnemar is the big winner so far. He's now only 2.3 behind Korhonen, so it's all sort of bunching up again. And yeah, if we compare this,
just wait until Heikkilä gets
so that's 1.2 slower than Oliver, but that's actually 2.2 seconds quicker than Korhonen. So again, it is all changed. So now the gap, so Linnemar's still there in fourth. Heikkilä, though, is closed up a bit on the Estonian, so 6.2 seconds that gap. So it's spread out a little bit in the previous one, but this one's seen them all sort of bunch up again. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting, isn't it? As you say, that 28-kilometre stage, the unpronounceable stage. That I'm not going to attempt it again because every time I do, it comes out like gibberish. But yeah, it's Brixilium, something like that.
Beautiful.
Let's hear from Mikko.
Mikko, well done. 1.2 down, second fastest through there. Also half a second quicker than Linnemar. It's going well.
Yeah. I made a few mistakes at the beginning. It was much more slippy what I was expecting. So I'm afraid the tires are already quite dead. But we had at least 3 really wide lines where it almost like stalled. So, but without them, it was again a nice stage.
Yeah, Heikkilä, a little bit messy at the start then, but good stage and all. And yes, that was a good run. That's other than Oliver, pretty evenly matched. These 4 guys fighting for the final 2 podium places. That's a terrific battle. Let's just hope they get through these last 2, and we can enjoy that all the way through the final leg as well on Sunday. Meanwhile, Larry Una slipped a bit adrift of this pack, but he's showing pretty consistent pace along with them. So we only a second or 1.7 now behind 3.1 now, just as I say that. Commentators curse, of course. But yeah, it's interesting to see how this stage develops. And that final one of the day, the long one, it was quick and narrow with that really sort of gnarly section I called it earlier in the forest at the end.
It's got a bit of everything.
It was getting quite rough, and people were talking about rocks, which is a little bit alarming late on in that stage. Let's see though. 3.5 seconds slower than Oliver for Uniden with a 7:10.2. He remains in 6th place overall. That's the Finn.
Yeah, the next stage is going to be a real tyre tester, and remember, it's not just the Umeå sprint this evening, it's actually Umeå. It's 10 kilometres to run, so we've still got nearly 40 kilometres of competitive action to run in this afternoon's stages.
Yeah, there's the stage that ends, if you've been watching the coverage all weekend, that finishes with that famous Red Barn spectator area. Let's hear from Lauri.
Lauri, 3.5 off the pace in there. Good stage for you. How did you enjoy it?
Yeah, we enjoyed it a lot. There was a lot of understeering. I think the last stage will run out of our tires, but yeah, for the next one, I think we had the better ones, and we're trying to get good feeling.
There we go. Well, last time I saw Gryazin, he was digging his car out of a snowdrift, so it's great to see that he's still in the running.
See there, just braking in the line, able to get that car stop, just going down through the gearbox, getting the car turned in, then getting back on the power. Once you're on the power, you don't want to get off it again. You want to start building speed. And again, just look, you see Nikolai absolutely planting that car in between those tram lines.
Just a couple of seconds off there. It was actually quicker, wasn't he, than Oliver in that early split. Yeah, I was just trying to work out a couple of stages back. He was actually in the snowdrift at best part of 11 minutes he was, with his feet getting cold with the old snow shovels out, but it's a job well done to get him out of there. I think there's a couple of marshals helping them out as well, so frustrating, but good to see they're still here. And it isn't a point scoring round, so it's all part of the learning experience, or the Sweden experience. Yeah, that low sun is, you can see it in the drivers' faces at times. It's fine when you're in the trees, but that will be a little bit distracting. Yamamoto, next interaction, Marco Salminen alongside one of our Toyota development drivers. Let's hear from Nikolai.
Nikolai, second pass of this one, 2.8 off the pace. That low sun, is that causing any trouble in there?
Just in the final corner it was causing the trouble. Okay, I mean, the time-wise not that bad as expected, so maybe we are in a good direction, so let's see.
It's good to see that smile again.
I hope it's come back, because otherwise I want to be happy after the race.
You can't say you've done the full Sweden experience if you haven't dug your car out of a snowbank, Nikolai. It's all part of the fun at rallying in this part of the world.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's added all, hasn't he, Nikolai Gryazin? As you said, all weekend, because he's not scoring points, and this wouldn't be his favoured surface, which is why it's not a nominated rally. He's been using it as a glorified testing session, and that's exactly the right thing to do. So he's been trying all sorts to see what will work in future circumstances.
I was just going to say as well, in a weird way, you probably don't mind having a bad rally and a non-nominated one. You'd be more frustrated if you were sort of top of the class and you're like, oh damn it, why didn't I nominate this one? So actually, if you can take a big experience like that out of it, then yeah, absolutely, and get some good settings on the car for future visits to this part of the world. It's all about dialing your skill and your car settings into this sort of specialised event. So 13.4 off the Solberg benchmark. I don't think we're going to see that beaten, even though Oliver probably only driving at 80-90%. Who knows? Because it has been well, we kind of expected it. Dominant performance from the local start.
Yeah, Oliver's driven superbly, and I said, I think that the stage conditions are starting to just come away a little bit. They're starting to deteriorate a bit, but Oliver, again, comes as no surprise to me whatsoever that he sticks that Rally 2 car at the top of the class leaderboard once again.
And you know what? He might not be on for a very unlikely podium finish that he was at the end of the day. I'll just get back to that shortly.
Yuki, how was that second pass?
Yeah, it was much better than the morning. Yeah, we don't have so much dust anymore, so quite a lot of hot dust here, but still the feeling was much better than the morning, so it was okay.
It's a little bit worrying if he's already saying he doesn't have many studs left, but let's hope he's got enough to get through that final stage. Yeah, I was just going to say about Oliver, last thing on young Solberg, he is still on course for a top 5 finish overall at his home events, which would be what a result that could be tomorrow if he's to hold on there for the WRC victory and a top 5 finish overall. Incredible run. Talking of Swedes, Isak Pearson now.
Yeah, we saw him from our eye in the sky, and that he was absolutely flat out on the, banging off the limiter, off the rev limiter, and this Rally Sweden is a great test of the hard limiter on a car. You don't want the car to creep up to its top speed and maximum revs in top gear and then instantly cut out. If it's too aggressive, it'll actually knock off a couple of kilometres an hour and have to work its way back up there again. So all of this stuff is factored into the mapping of the car, and as well, that there is a yes, while there are regulated maps, there is an openness within the regulations to allow you to map the car to suit the conditions. For example, when we go to altitude, you can map the car to suit the altitude because it's thinner air. Well, the teams will have done everything they can to map the car to these cold conditions as well. You know, it's nice, it's good thick air, and it's nice and cold, so they'll have done whatever they can, both in Rally 1 and Rally 2, to maximise the performance out of these cars.
Yeah, so Rierson completed there with a 7:13.8. That was 7.1 seconds slower than his fellow Swede, in fact, in Solberg. We'll get a word with him shortly, and he's in a bit of a fight with this man. We'll get back to Lindholm shortly.
He's like a few bits hanging off there, but it's all part of Rally Sweden, isn't it? How was this one?
Yeah, this one was better. The last one was really rough. Didn't really get the feeling in there. It was a lot of stones, and you try to save tires, but you want to drive as fast as possible as well. So we will see now on the next stage how it will end up, and also on the Umeå stage with tires. It's gonna be tough, I think.
Yeah, he's not the first person who's going to say that, and I don't think he'll be the last. But yeah, to get back to this fight, it's a fight for 7th place, which isn't where Lindholm would have wanted to be. But coming into this one, the Finn and former WRC2 champion, we should add, from a couple of years back, is just 14.3 seconds behind the Swede. So let's see how they compare in here. He is quicker as well at the second split. I've got Lindholm at 1.9 seconds quicker than Rierson. Let's see if he can maintain that, because we did see quite a few times tail off, haven't we, towards the end of this. I don't know if that road is starting to grade a bit more towards the finish. Let's see. Definitely slower than Solberg, but yeah, he is quicker than the man ahead of him. 2.2 seconds shaved off that deficit, so he's still just over 10 seconds or so behind, but certainly gives him a target for the final day, especially with a couple more stages to come today.
Yeah, it's this next stage of the loop that's the real test this afternoon, PK. 28 kilometres, as we said, it's got a bit of everything, hasn't it? There's some fast-flowing sections, there's some nasty, churny bits as well, where we'll see the stage start to deteriorate.
Emil, that rear bumper's taken a bit of a beating out there today, but just under 5 seconds off the pace in there. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's kind of okay. The front's already suffered properly in the previous stage, so we're really trying to nurse the studs and just get through this loop with saving tires. I guess we'll need some for the Umeå icy stage in the afternoon or in the evening. So yeah, try to manage.
Try to manage. It's what everybody's doing. It's the name of the game this afternoon. It always was going to be. Yeah, referring to the icy stage as well, the Umeå stage, they do water that one because it's the one that ends with that red barn arena. It's doubled in length with a lot more forest section, but it still ends with that same wonderful sequence for the fans with those big jumps, and they do keep watering that to keep that good bed of ice. But if you're doing those stages with, you can see sometimes you see these studs, they're not bald, but a lot of these studs can get ripped out, and it must be unnerving driving on ice on those deteriorating studded tyres, let's call them.
Yeah, and that's difficult for the drivers like Adrian Formeau and Elvin Evans, who are in a battle. You know, they've got to manage the tyres, but they can't lift off too much and protect the tyre too much, because you'll drop time. So those guys have got to be clever. And it's the same in the fight for second place in WRC2 in Rally 2. So yeah, it's time management is the name of the game this afternoon. Whoever can get that right between Adrian Formeau and Elvin Evans, and if it is Elvin, I think that gap will close right down. But Adrian's been getting to the end of the stage saying, I've just been driving smart, looking after my tyres. I know what I've got to do, and I know what's coming this afternoon. That's a beautiful shot, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the sunset is going to be quite something as Mikael Soloval gets to the finish. 19.5 seconds off of that wonderful benchmark. It is another stage win for Oliver Solberg. I think that's safe to say now. That's Soloval in 10th place overall, so he's just about in the points, but it's a bit of a chunk behind Yamamoto, who's ahead of him in 9th.
You're smiling.
Oh, yeah.
Was it good?
Yeah, we enjoy a lot. Yes, the tires was not so good, but we are happy.
It's interesting how Michael Soloval chooses not to run a visor on his helmet. It looks a bit odd. I've not seen that before on those Stilo helmets. There you go.
Yeah, so it was another stage-winning performance for Thierry Neuville. We didn't think he'd had a very good run, but the Belgian, it was certainly good enough as we enjoy these wonderful scenes from above for another stage win for Thierry. The Monte Carlo winner took it by just 0.2 of a second in the end from Elvin Evans. Another fine run from Adrian Formeau as he seeks to hold off that hard-charging Welshman, but it's still pretty tight in that fight at the front, and it's still very much advantage Oliver Solberg in the WRC2 honours. At the top of the leaderboard, though, it's still very much advantage for the Finn, Esa-Pekka Lappi. He's got a lead, still in excess of a minute, but that gap between second and third, it's 13.2 seconds. Elvin's going to keep hunting him down. He's got a 28th stage to come as well. Thierry up to 4th as well then. So, well, that's about all we've got time for from this stunning Sarsjoliden stage for another year. We're certainly not done yet, though, for Saturday's action. And more points on offer, of course, on the final leg, including the Wolf Power stage. Plenty more to come then from Rally Sweden. So until next time, it's goodbye for now.